What's up, everyone? We are back with another great interview with a Nami great. Somebody you've seen not only on the channel, but probably catching dubs left, right, and center all over not only the Nami, but the One Piece TCG interwebs out there. I have my guest with me today who I'll get him to introduce himself in just a second. I just want to get away the usual plugs. If you like what you're seeing on the screen so far, leave a like on the video, and I definitely need some feedback on the type of layout you're seeing on the screen. I'm trying to make things a little bit more professional. I promise you I am a content creator, so I'm trying to make it look like that. But please, my guest, without any further ado, introduce yourself. Why do we have you here?
Hey, I'm Adam Cisneros. I'm an avid Nami player, and I'm just off my back-to-back win in Pasadena. Yeah, it's my second win, and I guess most people know me as Unlikely Hero.
Perfect. Yeah, so huge win in a meta where I mean, I think if you just looked up One Piece TCG, like, I don't know, tier list, Nami's just not there, and to catch a win in such a situation is crazy. And one thing I do want to highlight before we go too far, because you had it on the screen, I'm gonna try and show it, but you do have a cute little setup on your bed that I want to like showcase there, where you have, oh my god, please extend the screen. Discord just doesn't want it. Oh, there it is. I got it. There it is for everyone on YouTube. You see it now. You see it now on the bed. Shout out to Laboon, the cutie. Yeah. Okay. So we're just gonna, I just wanted to showcase that a little bit. Oh, Laboon, the cutie. But all right, let's hop right into it. Today, we're gonna be discussing not only matchups, but deck lists, your thoughts on the metagame in general. We're gonna talk later down the line, a little bit of discussion on your thoughts on rotation and stuff like that. A little bit of everything, and whatever, Adam, you wanna bring in. So let's hop right into it. First and foremost, talk to me about, before even the tournament, before Pasadena and your back-to-backs. A lot of people consider you one of the best Nami players out there, if not the best. What is your opinion of Nami right now in OP10?
I think it's a solid choice. I don't think it's like the best deck. I think but it is. I like if there's like I think if there's like a top 3, top 4 decks, I would put it there. Based on matchup knowledge, I just think overall, because the meta is so wide, I think that's like a good thing for the deck. I think a lot of the rogue decks or the not top tier decks,
right,
have a hard time against Nami. So like that also puts it in a, like, I think that's what helps push it into, I would say top 4 decks of the format. And I mean, overall, I think the only hard thing about it is deck building, because the meta is so wide, there's not room for all the normal, I guess I wouldn't say normal, but I have to pick and choose what techs I'm gonna play. And so I kind of just had to hedge my bets for what I thought was going to be the most popular.
Right. Yeah, you can't have an answer to everything, but it's kind of like what you're alluding to. Having that uncertain metagame also kind of leads to the idea that people might not be teched against Nami. People might not be ready for it. And right now in a wide open world, we don't have to deal with, just a couple of decks that are just going to be really bad against us. So that's kind of nice. Let's kind of hone in on the discussion here. Let's talk about not just the metagame, but let's talk about the tournament metagame. What was your prep for this in general? We're going to go over your specific tech choices, but how was the tournament? Why did you choose Nami? I mean, you're obviously a Nami player, but why did you feel so confident going into this tournament?
I mean, honestly, I didn't feel like, I didn't think I was gonna win. I felt like I could, I felt like I could top. I felt like, I think, right, minimum, I think I felt like, I could go X2, I'll get top 32, just because of how much variance there is in the format. Yeah, there's that. Wait, sorry, I got lost in
no worries. Yeah, so that was the general bit. I mean, and also shout out to the fact that that's a winner's mentality, by the way. Do not go into any, my recommendation always is, don't go into any tournament thinking you're going to come number 1. But if you think that you're going to top, I think that's a pretty reasonable goal, because at some point there is a level of variance to it. But my man knew going in that he was on the leaderboard. You were seeing my man's name at the top. Winning or not, he was getting there. So I think that's the right mentality to go into it. But in terms of this wide open metagame, how about we talk about your matchup specifically? Because I think, I did a video the other day, and you were, I saw you kind of comment on it, going over your last match. And there was already an illusion that some people were making, kind of being a little disingenuous as to like, oh, how the players played, how the Bonnie player played, or what your matchups were. Oh, he dodged Shanks or Rush Shanks, or he dodged Zoro, whatever it was. What are your thoughts on your matchups? Do you feel like they were still hard? Do you feel like they were really easy for Nami? Let's go through that.
Oh yeah, so my bracket was 4 Blackbeards, 2 Ploofy, Shanks, Yellow Kid, Bonnie. I guess typically, I think it doesn't matter what version of Shanks it is. Whether they like throw in the rushers, it doesn't change anything for that deck or like how I play against it, because the things that they're playing for tempo are still bounceable, like with my tech cards. So it doesn't change the game plan. Yes, they might get like 1 or 2 extra cards out of my hand throughout the game because of it, but overall the deck is very slow. They're playing one thing a turn, swinging once or twice. White Snake is like super good against the aggressive version of the deck. So I think Shanks is like the new NL of the format. Like it should be a free win. Okay. And then I think Blackbeard is it's very matchup knowledge dependent. I think there's like a lot of nuances that people don't think about. And I'll talk about that more as we go. I guess when I talk about like my text and stuff, it'll make more sense.
Sure.
But it is not a deck that is going to pressure you until the game gets too late. So I think it's pretty favorable for Nami as well.
Okay.
Like not super favorable. Like I'm not going to say it's a free win like Shanks is, but I would put it like in the 60-40 range, and that's super good. I think that's great. Ploofy, everyone always asks me how I beat Ploofy, and I think a big part of it is I think the one drop Nami Searcher is what wins the matchup, and like I think that's why I also play, or it's a big reason why I play Hanger. That's one of the decks where if I have those 2 sideways, that deck doesn't have normally the only little chump guy is the one drop Searcher Law.
Yeah, and
even then I'll counter to protect it from that attack and even from their leader swing that turn if I can. It's really easy to be annoying against Ploofy, and at the end of the day they have to end up using like a really big swing, meaningful swing to get rid of them. They're blockers in the deck, I guess, and that's something I'll talk about as I get to my deck as well. When people ask me why don't I play blockers, those are my blockers. And then I played against Yellow Kid. I thought that matchup was going to be unfavorable, like just from based on theory. But later on, when I saw his deck list, he wasn't playing 6-cost Nico Robin, so his only life burner was it was only Eustace Kid. He didn't see any, but like even if he did see one, he drew I guess because there's no Nico, the deck is pretty slow. So I ended up winning pretty. I think it was pretty. What's the word? I can't think. Easily, I guess.
Yeah. Because the other day I played a game on Sim Ranked where they went literally they just starved me out. They went Robin, Kid. I'm at 1 life, and they swung out at me. And there's even situations I think they play there's that 2-cost that lets you rearrange your opponent's life. So they could
Viola.
Yeah. So they can rearrange your life to put your triggers on top and then just starve you out, go Robin, Kid. You lost all your triggers. They'll give you a Apis as your last life, and then so there's ways the deck has to beat you, but I mean, if they're not playing 6-cost Nico at baseline, I feel like that's a huge advantage. So
yeah, I guess he definitely made his deck to beat the rest of the meta. I mean, that's why he still ended up getting top 8. So good on him. And I think overall, his deck theory, deck strategy probably worked out the best it could for him.
Yeah.
And then my finals was against Bonnie. I think Bonnie's pretty favorable. Like it just plays into the tech cards really well. Even though they have the new TCG, it's still something that I guess I can play around. And I think it's like very Hody dependent. I think if they see two Hodies, it's scary. Like that's like where the game can be lost. But like without any, it's definitely a lot easier. And then our matchup was pretty close. I feel overall he played it really well. He denied me Kaya value, Nami Searcher value. So he definitely he played the deck really well, and it was close to the end for sure.
Yeah, and I do want to highlight before we get into the text, one thing that a lot of people just don't get is they feel like a lot of Nami play is comes up to a lot of luck, and I actually as I mentioned, went over your game because it is available on YouTube, the finals at least. I'm not sure if any of your other games were available like on the stream, but it is on the Eggman stream, and I went over it, and I think there were a lot of decisions you made that other people wouldn't make that led you to succeed, which I also want to highlight, like what cards to discard, what counter to use when. Like a lot of like there was a situation I remember I specifically highlighted which like blew my mind, but it ended up mattering later when you use the remaining cards, like where you drop like 2 rubber bands, I think to like it was like gavel, or like you discarded them to something, and I'm like, that's crazy, that has to be greedy. And then it worked out because the cards I would have discarded ended up just like winning you the game. Like you had like a white snake into something else. I'm like, wow, like it actually like worked out perfectly here. So I just want to highlight, like, you know, when we're talking about like even matchup knowledge, a lot of people just always forget it's not just about seeing draw twos in life. The decisions you make in terms of what you're discarding, how you're going about your resources when you're playing your pilafs is very important in every matchup, which leads me to our next discussion around tech, which I'm happy you mentioned the idea of pseudo blockers, because I think that's a concept that at least people playing against Nami don't really understand. So break it down for me. What are the tech cards top to bottom? We have it in our notes together. Let's talk about Nojiko. Why did you play 2 Nojikos?
I bumped it up from previous list because this meta, I think the good cards, they're heavily 5 cost.
Right.
I think like, yeah, at least for, you know, I would, or 5 costs or less, you know, Blackbeard has Burger, Shanks has the Brush Luffy, they play Rayleigh, what is it, the guy who buffs their leader by 1k, what is it, Yasop?
Yes, Yasop, yeah.
Yeah, and then Bonnie just has a play field of 5 drops. So and then like I guess all the other decks that are in the meta, like are yellow, they have like meaningful 4 drops. Everyone's started playing like their good cards, their early game good cards, and they tend to be $5 or less. So I bumped it up to 2. It also helps the Pluffy matchup a lot too. I figured that deck was going to become even more popular since it didn't get touched by the ban list.
Right.
So that's why I ended up deciding on 2 of it.
Okay. And did you see a lot of, like, even across the board in maybe matchups that you were watching, like, did you find that call would have been true even past this spread? Like, did you see a lot of Pluffy? Did you see a lot of Bonnie? Like, what do the other tables look like, I guess, to, help this tech?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I saw plenty of Shanks and yeah, it was mostly just Shanks. I didn't see too many green decks, honestly. It was a lot of Shanks, a lot of Blackbeard, and then Pluffy, and then so yeah, it would have been good against the rest of the room.
Yeah. And even against Blackbeard, that one turn, like there is going to be a turn ultimately where like they don't use leader ability, and that's going to be the turn where you get to bounce their Burgess and everything like that. Like there's value you're going to get out of it. Now when it comes to Nojiko, you even get the additional value of it's probably an insane use alongside Snake Dance, right? So if you get a Snake Dance trigger, bounce a Nojiko, bouncing something that they have, go back to your turn, bounce something again. That's huge tempo. I'm not sure if that's a trigger that happened to you in the point of the games. You're probably, there's so many options to bounce. You could bounce Kaya, you could bounce other stuff, but I imagine that's a huge tempo swing as well.
Yeah, it didn't happen in this tournament, but it's happened before, and it's come up in playtesting, or even just like even if I don't get a trigger Snake Dance, sometimes I will bounce back my Nojiko naturally versus bouncing back a Kaya. Sometimes, so it's just things that come up.
No, Nojiko's good, and it reminds me of the old days when we had Nojiko bounce it around with maybe Zeph. Like you play Nojiko, then you would Zeph, bounce the Nojiko, do it again. Like there are situations where that came into play. But talk to me about, in that case, let's go to another character. Let's bounce down our list here. Let's talk about Hanger. Now this one, I think Nami players are aware of, but every time I play against someone, they're always like, let me see that card. Like no one knows what this card is, right? And only the Nami players, I feel like we're this collective hive mind of intellect when we play it. Talk to me about Hanger.
Yeah, I think Hanger has a great place in the deck, and honestly, I almost wanted to play 3 or 4 copies of it. I think it just plays really well with the Nami Searcher, and kind of how I mentioned earlier that if you turn a lot of things sideways on one turn, it makes it really annoying for your opponent. And that's how they become blockers, because if they don't kill those things, like the game just escalates so fast.
Right.
I like some people I've had games where people decide that they'll try to race me because I'll tap out sometimes. It happened once where I already had one Nami sideways, so then I went first, so on my 5 Dawn turn, I played another Nami Searcher double hanger, so I have something prepared for the next turn. I have 3 things sideways, and I mean, they had 2 swings at life, and they valued those 2 swings at life more than trying to clear my board. So
yeah, and I love that.
It does put people like in a difficult position, and I think that's how the deck needs to be played. Like, you're trying to not make things easy for your opponent. You need them to think about if they really want to play their curve play, or if they need to spend their Dawn on like maybe like a 1-drop or 2-drop that they played earlier in the game, because I think that's some things that people do. If they don't have an early game play, they'll still play like a 2K counter that's like has just has some stats just so they can fight the board. That's kind of like my why I decided to keep playing Hanger, and why I would consider playing more of it, just because I want to have that situation come up way more often.
And do you find, like, I mean, before I even comment further on the concept of this card being a blocker, which is a really good one, would you consider playing more copies of Hanger? I think right now you're at 2.
Yeah. I said the other tech card that I had, which was Deathwink. It could be anything, honestly. I like Deathwink for this weekend. I don't think it's it has to be the 50th card in the deck. Hanger could be it. It could have been like a 3000 Worlds. But I kind of just felt like this weekend at least I wanted to try Deathwink, and it was good. So I might consider keeping it in.
Okay. So I before we touch on Deathwink, because I do it, like, anyone that watches this channel knows if someone breeds Deathwink, I'll play it. That's all I need. I love that card to death. But Hanger itself, I've never even thought about like having that type of greedy play where you just play out your hangers, you swing out with your Namis, and you just say, go ahead. I'm tapped out in Dawn. Do you go for my life, or do you now let me continue to draw cards off what's in my board and select more? Because that's a really interesting concept, because especially with Namis, the 1-cost Namis, I've had so many games where I've definitely had that level of success protecting the Namis, and all of a sudden they get irritated. Like, you have a 1000 power character, they swing in with a 2000 searcher, and all of a sudden you 2K. And you could see the pause, like the sim player will pause because you could tell they're irritated. They're like, wait, now I have to swing leader into this. Like, you took up 2 attacks very simply, because they also recognize the value of a card like that. So I think that's important to highlight. Again, yeah, they are pseudo blockers. And they kind of do draw a card. Hanger does draw a card. It may not be net a card, but it's selection. And Nami draws a card. And I think you can agree, anytime you get a chance to protect the 1-cost Nami to a reasonable degree, it's probably worth it.
Definitely.
Just to draw more cards and keep selecting. Because, I mean, you could use up 4 cards protecting the Nami, but then the next time it attacks, you just find a peel off and you're back at those cards again, right? So
yeah, and sometimes I will like consider discarding a Kaya. I love for like no value just to get the 4K counter. In a lot of situations, like it's such an important card. So I definitely, it's not wrong to go out of the way sometimes.
I like to say sometimes you've never lived Nami truly until you've reached those niche scenarios where you have to go gavel pitch a peel off. Like you've never truly lived unless you've had to hit the corner cases where that's relevant. But that's probably a very late game call. I wouldn't be doing that pretty early unless I had to, but regardless.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely late game. It's something I have to debate about sometimes.
yeah. It happens. So talk to me about, speaking of cards that you have to enable, talking about Deathwink, the 1-of card. Why did you choose, again, you're saying it's a flexible slot. Why did you land on Deathwink?
It was basically my 3rd Snake Dance, because I only played 2 Snake Dance. I didn't like Snake Dance a lot, but I did think the trigger was important. So and for people to think about too. So I kept it at 2 in the deck. And so when I was like thinking about what that 3rd copy of Snake Dance could be, I'm like, oh, I think Deathwing could be it. It's like the trigger is pretty similar. I'm not gonna be mad if I have it. And I guess this is like something that I didn't talk about earlier when it came to matchups and like preparing.
Oh, sure.
I did think about Zoro. And I think Zoro, like the way it plays now, it can really grind you out for cards. And so I was like, oh, why not just have it kind of does, it fills that role where it's a bounce trigger. And at the end of the game, it's something that can refill my hand because that matchup is grindy, played correctly. Like it shouldn't be like a steamroll, even though it's a super aggro deck. Like being like you're gonna counter, I think, aggressively, so that at the end of the game, your white snakes get value. White snake sucks at the beginning of the game for sure, since like they're normally swinging 6, and you're not gonna have a lot of dawn open, so you're not gonna double white snake. So I wanted something, after all that happened, where at least I could get some cards back. So I just wanted an extra bounce trigger, and I wanted the option of being able to cycle cards later. And it did matter against Blackbeard sometimes, where my other cards in hand were really good, or like let's say my Love wasn't live yet, and they're swinging like 11k, 12k with their Burgess. It was fine. It was fine to use it as just a +6, so that I could free up my hand later on, and my Loves would be live. So it came up quite a bit, and I was happy. I was pretty happy having it.
Yeah, and a lot of people underestimate, I think, like even that bounce, like bouncing a 7 cost or less, like there's, especially when you think about Purple Luffy, like you can bounce a Luffy Taro with it. Like there's a lot of options at 7, like surprisingly, that even, they're gonna get on play value. The point is tempo. That's why blue has bounce versus, I mean, now it has a lot more bottom decking, but that's why blue has bounce. It's tempo. It's making them re-spend the Dawn, which is very valuable, because that's 2 less whatever amount of Dawn that they have to put onto another character to swing 7 at you, to swing 9 at you. So everything matters mathematically. So yeah, Deathwink is definitely that great slot. And honestly, like the reason why a lot of people, I think, originally liked it as a one-of was it's just a card you don't expect. End of the day, someone swings in large, no one expects the one of Deathwink, right?
One card in hand, what can happen?
Do they have it? I mean, what are you gonna do? Sometimes they can't play around it, right? You Deathwink, you draw 2 cards, and they just gotta eat it. So that's a good situation there. Talk to me about some of your other choices. So I'm honestly interested in Gravity Blade. We can go through the other ones as well, but I'm interested in Gravity Blade because you have it as a as a one of, which a lot of people don't think that removal is that great in Nami, but Gravity Blade is a pretty solid blue card across the color anyway. Why'd you play it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I guess essentially that's like the 4th Snake Dance. It has like the similar trigger, but I think it's a really good card against Blackbeard. I think one of the ways that they try to win is just, I guess most decks, or a lot of decks, their strategy is like, oh, I'm not going to attack, I'm going to build board, and once I get there, then I'll start playing my 10 drops. So I think it really punishes Blackbeard the most. It's decent against green. Sometimes they'll play around it by playing the TCG early on. So I don't try to really play for it other than against the Blackbeard matchup. It's really for that matchup. Okay. But I think Nojiko and Brickfist make it so that Ploofy and Shanks naturally will play into it. They're forced to play into it because they need to replay the cards that you're bouncing in the early game. Right. And by the time they replay them again, it's a perfect Gravity Blade turn. So I think overall it's a good niche card. I have it at 1 because it's searchable, and it's something that I'll play for. Like I won't play Opus sometimes if I know I'm gonna spend a couple turns searching with Nami, because I want to try, like if I need to find it, I'd rather find it through Nami, and then if I don't find it, then I'll deviate from the game plan. I'll play my searchers, and like I'm okay with losing it, because like it will only really be good on certain turns. Like as the game plays, it's hard to really, I guess, elaborate, because it's very niche. Like it's definitely a game by game decision. I'm not always slamming it on 7. I'm not or 7 or 8 on. Sometimes it will be the bad play, even if like Ploofy has it's after the turn they play Luffy Taro and they have their 2, like a 4 and a 5. Like it may seem really good to Gravity Blade on that turn, but I think I'd rather defend life versus being able to like take 2 damage for sure. So exactly. You don't want to get like out tempoed. You don't be like, you see the line, just don't be too greedy. I guess. I think that's one of the hard things about the deck. Like I did try not to think about Deathwing too much. It's like a nice option, but like don't like start discarding your hand aggressively just because like I really want to draw 2 cards. Don't really try to tap out for Gravity Blade unless it really seems like it's the ideal moment for it.
And I think that's so for me personally, that is one of my things I need to overcome. I know from like my playstyle is very greedy, which is why I'm not winning Pasadena. So, you know, that's why players like you are winning it, because you make good decisions. But I definitely play really greedy. I see 8 Dawn, I'm like, bet, I'll Gravity Blade and hold up a Gavel. And then they'll play a Rusher, I'm like, oh man, I didn't expect this. So you're right, sometimes it's not worth it, and sometimes the instant speed Deathwink is too juicy, but it's not worth it. Which I think is the ultimate downfall of multiple copies of Deathwink, that you are forced to enable it, whereas if it's just a one of, you're more okay with just the like, okay, whatever, let's just get rid of it. It's a 6k counter in this situation or whatever it is. But in terms of bounces, you talked a lot of options of this is a copy of Snake Dance, this is this is that. You're doing a lot of bouncing. Talk to me about your last bounce card that you actually used in classic faction with Kaya, Brickfist. Talk to me about Brickfist.
Oh yeah, I think Brickfist it's just a really good option card. Being like just having the choice of between your characters or your opponent's characters is huge, and the trigger being the same thing, I think it's very important. I think it's one of those cards that's also very flexible against Blackbeard, and if you watch my final, yeah, it's good against, like, it's flexible against Bonnie,
right?
And sometimes, or because the Blackbeard matchup it is going to be a grindy one. Like, you're not going to be brickfisting back your Kayas most of the time in that matchup.
Right.
You're going to be brickfisting back your hangers,
right?
Since you're trying to just get as much cycle as you can.
Right.
It's also just good for tempo, like against that matchup, like a bouncing back Burgess, if they're just on the game plan of like, oh, I'm gonna build board. Well, the turn before you think they're gonna play their 10 drop, you're like, okay, well, here you go, have it back. Do you want to build board again? And then that's what helps. Like, that's what also helps force them to play into Gravity Blade. It's like, okay, now I want to have put back 2 more Burgess, and now it's like, okay, now it's perfect. Now they're all gone.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's also very good against or it just has niche applications against like Luffy and Zoro. Just sometimes you just need to get one of the, if they're playing it like Animal Zoro, if you like sometimes I'll plan a turn where I'll swing into the rested body that comes out. If it doesn't get KO'd, I'd rather bounce that card, because they're for sure always gonna spend the 3 Dawn to summon the other chopper again.
Yes.
So I want that one to turn. I want that one to turn sideways, so at least I can, you know, try to attack into it and get rid of it. They may not want to spend the 3 Dawn to summon back, you know, a 3/4 body.
Right.
And if they do, that's like, I think that's still okay. It's like a slow turn for them.
Right.
So
Exactly.
it's just like little things like that. Yeah, it's the way my deck is built is for tempo. I'm trying to bounce, play for tempo, trying to get to the turns where I have way more open Dawn, so that I can easily, you know, defend myself in the final life and figure it out.
Yeah, and that's one of the situations I alluded to. And I don't want to spoil too much of the match, but against Bonnie in that final, like, that Brickfist really came in handy. And that was one of those decisions that I highlighted in the beginning of this, where I would have chose differently. Like, I would have let the Brickfist go so much earlier to like a gavel pitch, but you were really patient with it. And you saw it, like, I could see you like shuffling through your hand, you were looking at it, and you saved it to the end, and it gave you so much power, being able to just Brickfist bounce a Kaya. And so and this is something that I think just comes with reps, right? This is why you're making these decisions and understanding the flexibility of these cards, and you understand the full value of them, which I can't speak to enough. Like, you can make tech choices like this, you can choose your 1-ofs or your 2-ofs, but if you don't have the testing behind them, which you do, you're just not going to be able to maximize them to all these scenarios that you're talking to, which I think is important. But overall, you know, you succeeded in Pasadena with these tech choices, and you talked about how there's a flexible slot or two. What would be your changes overall? Would you add or decrease certain amounts? You were talking about more hangers. Would you remove certain tech choices altogether? How would you go about it? Let's say if you had to play Pasadena again tomorrow.
It depends. Like, I was like thinking about Dofi a lot, honestly, and in my list before I submitted for the event, I had Houndblades in my deck still. Because even though they don't have a Jinbei, the matchup still can be kind of hard. And it's actually, I felt like it was really, really easy if you just Houndblade, you know, if the first turn where they set up their teach, and, you know, the teach leader effect, now they have a 6k body or whatever. But now, like, that's a turn where Houndblade swing you're bottom decking the Teach, swinging like 10 minimum into the rested body, and if it dies, like I think the game is over. If it doesn't die, I still feel like the game is over because they just gave up 3 cards in their hand. And at that point, they should only have like 1 or 2 unless they summoned a Weevil. But it just makes the game easier, being able to get rid of the Teach so they don't get to play 2/4s the next every turn after that.
Right.
So that's why it was in the deck still. So I guess if you anticipate if your locals has like a lot of Dofi players still, or if you think the next tournament's gonna have a lot of Dofis, then Deathwing could be Houndblaze. You can think about it that way. I think the uncuttable tech cards though are Nojiko and Brickfist.
Okay.
I don't think there's no way you can ever cut those cards, and at least with the way I have my deck built, you can't say you're gonna play my list without having those cards in there.
Fair enough.
And then between like Deathwing and Hanger, yeah, I think Deathwing could be honestly like anything that you may think, depending on what your meta is looking like.
Sure.
I definitely like Hanger the most as like the first option.
Sure.
Because it's just good as a Blackbeard. It's good as a blocker. Makes Nami better. Honestly, I'm telling you, it makes the Poofy matchup easier. Just having more of them when you have Nami.
Right.
So it's just overall, I want the deck to be consistent, and like Hanger makes the deck consistent. So
yeah,
I think he's a good choice.
And then go on. Sorry.
Yeah, I guess people start playing Gion, or I guess the only decks I really could are Boa and Dofi. You can play 3000 Worlds. I was thinking about that a lot too.
Right.
But I still don't think like Nami's like since it's not the best deck, people shouldn't be like hard fixing their decks for it. I mean, Gravity Blade's probably like good enough still to not lose to Gion.
Yeah.
But if you want to think about it, 3000 Worlds is a good option too.
Yeah. And a lot of times like these decks get close enough to the point where like I've lost plenty of times to Doflamingo where I played around the pudding and whatnot, and they've just gotten me close, got me to like 3 cards, and I have lethal in hand, and then they just Gravity Blade 2 characters, and all of a sudden I'm out of reach. So it's honestly sometimes like even on their end, they don't need to tech too hard. The main board plan is good enough. But with Boa, that's a slower deck, then yeah, something like that is going to be important. So yeah, no, that's fair. How about we switch pace in that case and talk about some matchups? We talked about tech. We were kind of alluding to some blue-based matchups. How about we go into the first one? And I think this is going to be a common one that a lot of people have been through for a meta or two, gone through iterations and whatnot. But talk to me about Marshall D. Teach, Blackbeard himself, current iteration, Burgess, 10 cost. We all know the plan. The plan's the same every deck. Blackbeard's doing the same thing every game. What's the plan against Blackbeard?
And I think that's what makes Blackbeard. I'm glad you said that. I think that's what makes Blackbeard like a slightly favorable matchup, is because it's like very predictable what they're gonna do. Like they're trying to play Burgess every game. They're trying to stick 2 before they start playing their 10 drops. They're trying to get you to 2 life or less by the time they start swinging with their 10 drops. So I think it's like really easy to see that coming and to like play around it. I think a big way I win those games are I try to stay at 3 life by the time they play their second 10 drop, so that now it's like pretty easy to see the math of when they're like how they're attacking. Since it's 12k base, it's just 4k counter events,
right?
And you can like math it out, like okay, that they're only gonna get 3 swings this turn. I'll take 1 life and then counter out the rest. It makes Whitesnake super good because now their leader is like basically negated. You don't have to worry about an extra 1k counter for that. And by the time they play their 3rd or 4th Teach, like it's still, the math is still there. You're gonna see 12, 12, 12, 12. And if you like, okay, I'm gonna out counter. I'll take the first 2 to like just to make them think they're gonna win, and then I'll counter out the rest, or like I'll counter out like maybe I'll stay at 1 life just until the last attack. Is it like even if your deck count is low, like you don't have to mill out, you don't have to draw. A lot of the times, like you're gonna use those 4k counters. Like I'll gavel set up so that my deck is at 1. I'm not gonna mill anymore.
Right.
The only card that is mandatory to draw is Love Beam.
Right.
So you have to be, you do have to think about that, like you'll counter early, or so like maybe you don't want to draw with it, so it'll be the first card that you counter with, or like you just have to be careful how you figure out, or how you see your end game sequence. Don't accidentally force yourself to draw a card when you're not supposed to.
Right. And those are things that are very important, right? Like think about the mandatory draws. Like every other draw in so there's 2 draws in the game that are quote unquote mandatory in the Nami deck, and even one of them is conditional. Mellow is conditional on the number of cards in your hand, but you must draw if you're lower. And White Snake is always a draw. Whereas your mill cards like Rubber Band and Gavel are conditional. Like you don't need to mill with them. So those are the cards that when you're playing at instant speed, you have to think about like as a counter when you're enabling them, which is important. You're right. Because the last thing you need is your math is off. So for example, maybe you could have like you have 3 cards left in deck. If you mellow first to draw, then you have a Gavel left. All of a sudden you might have lost the game because they have a 10 cost Blackbeard effect out. Whereas you could have Gaveled first and you were trying to do something like kind of weird or funky or greedy. So be very careful about your math. So that's definitely very important. Is there anything else specific against Blackbeard? Obviously, your hangers are really good against Blackbeard.
Yeah, it's something that you can think about in terms of like your endgame math. Try to see if you're gonna like how many, like if you think you need the draw, or like you can if he's gonna be one of the cards that you use to end the game on your turn instead. Like it's something you'll think about, like, oh, maybe I have to save a breakfast for hanger to get the last 2 cards.
Right.
Like I will play one at the like I don't mind playing one like in the middle of the game to keep tempo, because I think that's something important for the matchup. You still need to play normal. Like I'm gonna peel off when I can. I'm gonna like if they don't leader effect, I'm gonna play Kaya. I'm gonna play Opus. Like I want to be able to do something every turn, because like that's the way that you kind of like pressure the deck. Because if you don't pressure them, then maybe their Burgesses get to like 13 14k, and now like you don't have enough counter at the end of the game when they start 10 dropping.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
I think the it's important to just like try to play like as normal as possible, and just cycle efficiently. That's the most important.
Yeah, really understand what cards you need to let go and what cards you need to push up. Like this is one of those matchups where a lot of times I do find myself, and let me know if you are as well, like when it comes to Nami, a lot of times if I'm not working towards a plan, I'll just 1-cost Nami and try and grab like Impel down and make my late game a little bit better. But Blackbeard's definitely one of those matchups where I'm definitely digging for peel off just to like put on the pressure. Like I won't get the bad card. I'll get the good card, because the good card is what's going to make them like, okay, maybe I do add 2 Dawn and attack here instead of trying to do some whatever nonsense. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and when you start playing the good cards, it like pressures them to start using the leader effect earlier than they normally would want to, and that kind of opens up the window of like, oh, now I get to swing into their characters if they do decide to swing. Like, do they want to keep the cards in hand so they can keep leader affecting, or are they going to give me the rest of their hand to keep the guy on board?
Right.
So that happens a lot. I think that's something that's important, is that you are going to attack with your leader into their things. Like, and sometimes I'll tap out, like if I'm gonna like, yeah, I may tap out because I'm putting all the Dawn on leader, or like a majority of it on my leader, because I want to get the cards out of their hand, or I want the thing off the board. It's like sometimes it will come up when they have to like turn a teach sideways before they like start chaining them. But I will, put 9 Dawn on my leader. I'll swing 14, 15 sometimes if like the game if the game allows, like if they only have like 1 Burgess after that, like I'll like, that's a really something you need to think about, like being able to swing with your leader to get rid of something.
And yeah, it happens like a non-zero amount of times. It's very relevant, because they're trying to pressure. They sometimes even forget they can't really defend it, or they don't think that you'll attack into it. Like they don't believe that's a legitimate line for you, but it is. I'll happily trade into that, because that 9 Dawn, that gives me a Gavel back or whatever. Like that's more than enough value, because that essentially is a counter out of 1. But when it comes to being, I guess, like greedy with some of your plays, like against Blackbeard, like do you find that you will play out as like on a turn where you get the opportunity to play out your Kayas? So there is a turn where they don't use leader ability. Do you use that turn to use up as much Dawn as possible to play out your Kayas, your I don't know, maybe you even play Apis, whatever it is? Or do you say, okay, no, I kind of need a counter out? Or is it situational based? There's 3 options.
Oh, it's definitely situationally based, but I feel like like playing normally, you're trying to keep your life total high. So yeah, the turn that they don't, I'll tap out sometimes. Yeah, definitely, it's something I'll consider. I'll breakfast back my Kayas, keep doing it. Just to get the most cards, cycle through if the opportunity presents itself.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times it even forces the Blackbeard player to say like, oh, okay, my bad, I will leader ability. So it almost like does just take a card out of their hand the turn after, because they're like, oh, look at what happened when I let it go once. It's almost like that free card value.
I do think something greedy that I will do a lot is I'll wait until I have three Nami searchers before I play them. Like I think two is fine, but like sometimes like if you feel like if you have other things to do, obviously, and to be efficient, I think it's okay to play 2 on 1 turn. You just don't want one of them to die to dot Q for fun. Like you want them to invest way more Dawn if they're gonna try to clear your board. So sometimes, yeah, it depends. It's like definitely one of the things I think you should be doing is at least playing 2 at a time. And then if you can afford to, then like try to find the third one.
Do you bother? And this is a question. So I know my answer to this. Do you choose to swing into a top dock queue, knowing that the on queue on KO is draw them a card if you want to play out another Nami? Or do you at that point, once the dock queue is established, do you not bother playing Namis anymore?
No, like if I have the luxury of being able to play a Kaya on the early turns, I guess that incentivizes them to play dock queue. I'm okay with them like getting rid of the Kayas with it, and then I'll get rid of it with leader, so that later on they have to reinvest or like they have to find another one, or they'll have to invest a Kuzan. And if they have to spend 5 Dawn for a dock queue, I'm okay with that.
Right? Yeah. That's huge, because that's a dock queue that's not turning into a bird jet, so that's fair. That's fair. Okay. All right. So enough chat about Teach. I think a lot of Nami players have the experience. Like, you just got to get down to that life point, and sometimes they're just gonna have it. Like, they've been able to cycle every turn. Their bird jess is like a friggin' 11k attack every turn. They're just gonna have it sometimes. But sometimes it does come to careful decisions, and I think adding stuff like the hanger does add a lot of optionality, so I think that's good there. Let's talk about another matchup that I think is more popular, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong, more popular online on the ranked sim. What is it, Zoro? Talk to me about the Zoro matchup.
Oh yeah, it kind of it was a little bit popular when when the balance first came out. But like after a week or so, I think it started falling off, and people started realizing it's like not as dominant as people were imagining it to be, even against Teach.
Right.
But I still play tested against it. Thankfully, I have some pretty good players in the area, and one of them got top 8 actually with Zoro. Thank you to that guy for also his name is Philip, for helping me play test.
That's a Philip.
Overall, played correctly. It's supposed to be a grinding matchup, and I think it's always close. It's not like I mean I don't think we're ever supposed to run away with it unless they brick and don't have actually any of the good cards that they're supposed to have. But yeah, I kind of alluded to it earlier, where you want to be able to counter out a lot of the early game swings, so that once you get to 8 Dawn, even though you have maybe only 2 or 3 cards in your hand, at least you have a higher life total.
Right.
And then playing that way makes your white snakes way better at the end of the game, because now if they're trying to just swing 6 or swing 7, you have the luxury of playing 2 or 3 white snakes, and now they only get 1 or 2 more swings. And I think that's everything with the deck, being able to get 1 more turn, negating your opponent's turn essentially by doing that. So it's a very I think it is a hard matchup. I would say we're unfavored, but it's not Dofi, it's not RP Law. You can play through it, play out of it.
So that's interesting. So I like that. I like that little comparison you made with those 2 other leaders. So I actually find this, and so this is a teaching moment for me. I'm excited. What makes you believe that this matchup is better than Dofi? So I actually find Zoro's in the middle. It's definitely not RP Law, I think, but I feel like this matchup is harder than Doflamingo. Maybe, and again, you're the winner here, so I'm gonna take the L here. Why do you feel like it's closer? What are the tips that you, maybe 1 or 2, if you can think of them off the top of your head, against the Zoro matchup that maybe we're not making? Maybe it's going into attack more, or maybe there's a card we should value more. What is helping you have that Zoro matchup be easier?
I think it's just the early game tempo cards that I play. It's just Nojiko and Breakfast. Like I was kind of saying earlier.
Right.
You don't mind bouncing back the other bodies that are not the chopper that summons off the deck.
Mm-hmm.
I think you want them to think harder about reinvesting other Dawn into their other cards, or like I think most of those decks still want to play their 5-cost Luffy on 5, or like on their 7 Dawn turn, because it makes their leader free and it makes the other choppers better. And like, you know, that card plays into Nojiko, so it's one of the things where you're playing for tempo. And I think why Dofi is harder than Zoro, I just think naturally the blue cards counter the blue cards.
Mm-hmm.
It's not so easy to set up Nami's against Dofi. Like they still have Bounce Law, they still have Gravity Blade. It can happen a lot where they'll you know, Bounce Law, and then
I
putting
hate
you
that card so much.
yeah. So like I think just those cards are way more annoying. So yeah, that's why I would think that's why I put it ahead.
Fair enough. I feel like maybe it's my own bias. I feel like every time I play against Doflamingo, I feel like I know what's going on. But every time I play against Zoro, I don't know what's going on. Like I feel like it's just card after card after card. I'm like, oh my god, this is too fast. But maybe again, lack of matchup knowledge is probably what it comes down to for me against Zoro. But all right, let's talk about another tough matchup that you've already alluded to, actually. In the purple side of things, talk to me about Purple Luffy.
Oh yeah, Purple Luffy is one of those decks. I think the only difference between this and Shanks is, I guess, it's like they're trading off rush cards for, you know, they have just bigger bodies naturally.
Right.
So but they're still, you know, gonna play a 4-cost guy on 4. Ooh, Breakfast. Now their next turn they're gonna Luffy Taro play out a 5-cost. Boom, Nojiko. Like it's one of those decks where since it's easy to see what's coming, and the tempo cards naturally play into your tempo cards, like getting rid of them for, you know, the turn to make them reinvest is really important. And then hopefully, like, I mean, that's one of those fringe scenarios where you have to think about, like, oh, now if they spent like their 10 on turn playing, you know, 2 5s or 2 4s, you know, that could be like an ideal Gravity Blade turn. But kind of like as I talked about it earlier, like the Nami searchers and hangers are what are really important in that deck to help you get to like game comfortably. Right. As you're spending Dawn, also tempoing, bouncing their stuff is like having those things sideways, so they're your blockers, and now you're like at a 4-5 life total most of the time. By the time they reestablish their board and you've like gotten to cycle efficiently. So there's that. I think like resolving as many gabbles as possible is important in that deck. Or against that deck. And I think White Snake is one of those cards where it doesn't have too much value, so like you should be like, if you have like a couple in your hand, like feel free, like you should be cycling at least one so that you have more Dawn at the end of the game, because you will want to have your 4K counters more live once they have like they're big bodies, and like if they end up playing, you know, a 9-cost, you need the 9/10 rush Luffy. You definitely will start needing to keep more Dawn open, because they have a free 10k swing available.
Right. Yeah, and those are things that you have to be kind of ready for it. You were talking to, you know, some of the interaction that you have, which is great. You know, the proof of concept, right, of some of the tech cards that you're putting in. But you also mentioned something about having a lot of early 1-cost searchers. Like, what are the cards that you're prioritizing in this matchup? Are you going first and second? I feel like some of the other matchups might be a bit more cut and dry in terms of first or second, but are you still going first here and just kind of hard mulliganing for a 1-cost? Are you still going second for the card draw? How are you playing Purple Luffy?
Oh yeah, I think I want to go first. You want to take away take away a turn of aggression essentially, because they lose an attack. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I want to hard mulligan for the Nami searcher. Like I won't keep even if my hand is like Kaya, you know, peel off and like decent cards, like I don't think that's what you need against that matchup. Kayas are definitely better toward the end of the game. You want to be able to just to cycle and keep off their aggression by having the Nami searchers. Like I definitely, like if I don't have one in my hand, but I have an Opus on turn 1, I will aggressively, Opus to find it, because I want to be able to cycle through my deck first of all, but I want to be able to protect my life by forcing them into attacking, and then that kind of plays into being able to defend it if they don't, like, especially if they don't have a 1-drop. They need to play curve in order to like keep the most pressure. So they're only going to swing 5, and then on the next turn you'll have 2 down open. That means your Mellow's live, and if you have a another free counter, I'll definitely will counter to protect it to keep it on the board.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. I like that. Okay. Now, is there any like problematic tech card that you find that the purple players can play? Like I don't think the purple players are at the point where they're teching against Nami. I think the matchup is like good enough, but is there any one problematic card that maybe comes up?
They could play Kamazo on curve, but that plays into Nojiko Brickfist.
Yeah.
They could play Top Knot, but you can't really play around that. It's just like something that they'll have that's annoying.
Exactly. It's a good event. Yeah.
I think that's about it. Like specifically towards Nami, that's like, or that could like really interrupt the game plan. But no, I guess they could play Blocker Law that that if you have 7 or more cards.
Yeah. Do the list play Blocker Law right now?
No, they don't.
That's what I'm saying. I don't. Yeah. No, I don't.
I'm not sure what deck could play. I think maybe just. I guess maybe Red Purple Leafy does play it sometimes. Yeah. But
I think Blocker Law is like the only tech card I could think of, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people aren't really playing it to a high degree at all. If you get punished by it, you get punished by it, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, but for the most part, it's just Kamazo, but you can bounce it, so that's okay.
Okay. So let's go into the last matchup that I'm thinking of, and feel free to bring more up after this. But this is one I feel like has been blowing up all over Twitter. I feel like the TCG market is not ready for the Lim matchup. The Lim players, for some reason, they're taking over TCG player. Prices are skyrocketing of all these tapped cards. Talk to me about the green purple menace that is apparently Lim.
Yeah. I like in testing, I guess my friends weren't playing that version of the deck for sure. They were just playing like the traditional ramp to 9-cost Zoro. But it kind of plays the same as Bonnie, in a sense. So like their good cards are 5 or less, so you can bounce them for tempo, and then that deck heavily plays into Gravity Blade, so you definitely get rid of their stuff. The only things you have to be conscious of are their arresters. That's definitely one of the matchups where you don't want to play one Nami down at a time. You would want to play at least 2. Or like if you have a Nami down, you want to like have a Kaya and a Snake Dance live so that you get some value out of it.
Right.
Since they have like multiple cards that like rest and pop. But I think the deck is in a sense linear. You know what they're trying to do. You can see what they're setting up for, and their end game is to get multiple attacks or multiple swings in on a character in Mihawk. So you can see the math on board and think about like, oh, I need to keep this much down open if I don't want to take 2 damage this turn.
Right.
So, but for the most part, yeah, you can play as normal just to make sure you don't lose your Namis for fun.
Yeah, and I think the tap downs are the big thing to play around, and I think that's probably the big learning curve of remembering to play out multiple things. It's just one of those things you learn playing green, right? Like the sequencing of things, like attack first, then play your characters, or just be ready for something to get tapped down and play out multiple. And it's kind of like what we were doing with RP Law, right? When RP Law was around, like you had to play out characters 2 at a time and just hoped they picked the wrong one, or whatever. Hope they bottom decked the wrong one. Any specific more notes on the Lim matchup itself? I personally don't have a lot of experience with this matchup. I played against it a couple times, and it's either they see 9-cost Zoro or not, and I feel like that's where the matchup lands for me. But again, small sample size. Anything more from you?
Well, I mean, I guess the list that's popular now is not playing Zoro, so you shouldn't have to worry about it. But even if they do play it, I think if you just play as normal, by the time they play Zoro, you should have like about like 25, 26 cards in that range, and like you should be able to defend and cycle. Hopefully, I mean, obviously, if you don't break, if you get to play normal, you should be able to see the line of like, I'm gonna cycle these cards out, take a couple damage this turn, and then figure out how you're gonna, like, I guess in a sense 2-turn lethal them to end the game.
Okay.
because you don't have to worry about Hody. That's like the great thing. Like that's the one green deck. It's like, oh, all my Dawn is available to me. I don't have to worry about like making sure I keep an excess amount. You can be a little bit more proactive with it
against them. Yeah, no, for sure. Hody's the card that I feel like I'm at this point in my life, not even in OP One Piece, in my life, where I'm like, I'm gonna need you to have it. I'm so sick. I cannot play around this card. I'm sick and tired of this garbage. I'm gonna need you to have it. I'm playing into it. I'm gonna need you to just have it. That card just, it does so much. It does so much. What a card. Rush 2. Oh my god.
Yeah, that card's good.
Is there any other specific matchup that you wanted to touch on?
Those I mean, Shanks should be easy, so I hope people don't need too much help with it.
Especially with your tech cards. Like I think without your tech cards, like the Rush version of Shanks might be a little difficult. They can't get you out of nowhere. Like they usually have a play every turn and it's coming at face, whereas the regular version, the control version, has a play every turn, but that play like largely doesn't mean anything. Like they'll just play something and buff leader by 1k. You're like, all right.
Yeah.
I don't see what that's doing to me, but okay.
I'm trying to think what other matchups have popped up or are gonna pop up.
At least in this metagame. Once we get to OP11, it's gonna be, oh my lord. We might have to quit for a metagame, but oh well.
No, I think is that what, like I guess blacks. Oh, red green smoker, but I treat red green smoker the same as Bonnie. It's essentially the same thing. They're trying to play their 5 cost. Yeah. They have rushers.
Yes.
But it's kind of the same thing. It's like sure they get one extra swing in a sense. Yeah. But it's not going to be huge on the turn that they play. It's going to be 7. Yeah. And that's like it's definitely something you can account for. And then I guess a black smoker. I think that matchup can be difficult if because they can starve you for resources since they have Brook. Their Tashigi is like a good on curve play that also removes your bodies.
Right.
I think it's important, at least in that matchup, where I guess you would prioritize playing Opus over like Namis. You're not going to hold Namis in that matchup. You're not going to even. I don't think you can ever find a spot to play a Nami searcher in that matchup. Yeah. It just becomes the discard fodder for your Opus. Yeah. So I think that's important to think about and to know. I'm not sure what other. I think those are like the majority of the popular decks that we went over. Ones.
Yeah, you'll see an odd yellow player here and there, but I think at this point there's been enough metas where like yellow hasn't changed that much. I think there's enough metas where we all know what's going on with yellow. We all know, we've all figured it out at this point. But let's talk about, we've talked about the tournament, we've talked about the matchups in general. Let's go into a bit of a general section. How about you start me off after that whole discussion? How are we feeling about Nami in the rest of the OP10 meta? You already kind of gave me your thoughts initially there, but after that whole discussion, do you feel better about it? Are you looking to play more active tournaments going up in the next month? You're talking about how a lot of them are kind of virtual, they're not in person, but are you excited? Are you cautious? Do you think people are gonna tech no more Shanks? It's a limb meta. What are you thinking about?
No, I feel happy about the where the deck is. And I think it has a solid place at least for the rest of this month. I'll have to test the once I think EB comes out like the beginning of or like second week of May or something. So yeah, we have about a month left of this meta. I think it's a fine choice. And I don't think there's anything I'm worried about in a sense. I'm very happy. I don't think this is like the meta where it's like, man, I think even though I got a top with it during RP Law format, like I didn't think it was the best deck in the room for sure then. I think it's a good deck now, and it's a solid choice for the rest of this format.
Yeah, and I think it also just goes to show, like, I just want to address this from the get-go. People are going to talk about how, you dodge this, you dodge that. At the end of the day, there are still decisions to be made. You can go into your best matchups all day and still lose the game. So whether or not there was dodging, luck, whatever, you still need to play out the game. You still need to make out good decisions. There's a lot of choices game to game that need to be made. And I think personally, I'm really excited for you to go into potentially teaching some other players. I saw you potentially talking about coaching. There was a little thread I saw where you were offering what was it?
Oh, cross.
Yeah, it was cross. It was cross. I think it was cross, and then I think I saw something with Atrocious, or was it Jake? Whoever it was. I saw these other creators, and you're like, yo, you want to learn? And a lot of them were like, yo, bet. So I'm happy I'm happy and also not happy for people to finally learn Nami tech, because now more people are gonna know how to beat Nami, but also more people are gonna come to appreciate the archetype. What has that been looking like with I guess more people looking to you to get some knowledge on Nami?
For the most part, the coaching that I've done, or that I've been approached for, is to understand how to play it, not how to beat it. At least that's what I've coached, I think, 4 people now.
Yeah.
And then I did help Cross out. Cross did want to learn how to play the deck, but he also wanted to learn how to beat it.
Yeah,
so I was,
enough.
I was open to talking about it, and we played a few games, and we were able to at least highlight what I think would be a misplay on his end versus and even a misplay on my end. I think it's just good practice, good play testing in the end. It goes both ways. And I still, at the end of the day, it's on the Nami player to play you got to find the correct line,
Yeah.
And even if your opponent is let's say attacking optimally, you still need to figure out how am I countering, what am I planning for, what cards can I afford to lose this turn. And at the end of the day, I don't think I'm winning because people don't know the matchup. Yes, they make some mistakes, but if I'm not playing correctly and not playing for I'm not playing correctly and not setting up myself a proper end game, then it doesn't matter if they're messing up. It's still on me to I still have to be the better pilot and close out the games.
Yeah, and I think that's another thing that a lot of people forget. You always have to remember, on average, you will see all cards in the game. I think especially, the way that I play is I tend to take all the life I have at some point in the game. Especially sub 15-10 cards, I usually like to take all my life at that point and then work with all my resources. But you will see 95 to if not 100% of your deck. You have to plan how you want to see that, right? And the thing I want to highlight with what you said is planning. So a lot of times when people will just be like, oh, they're attacking optimally, they're starving me out, and they don't know how to switch, right? They don't know how to be like, all right, now I need to play proactive, or based on them playing this card, I need to be more defensive. And these type of decisions only help to increase your odds, right? Because you will see more cards. You actually have cards in your deck that draw cards actively, that select optimally. So you have so many decisions per game that, again, you could still be unfavored, but will just make the game worse for you if you don't choose right. So there's always a choice you can make that is optimal. And I think a lot of people miss that.
It happens a lot, especially during playtesting. If I lose by even if I lose by sub-10, 10 cards, 10 cards might seem like a lot, and oh, you had no chance. I still feel because I was if I got to search and see and order those bottom cards, I feel like there was probably somewhere in the game where I didn't get to or I discarded the wrong card, or I added the wrong card, and if I picked this card, maybe I would have survived their last attack, and then those I would have gotten to cycle through the last 10 or so or less. So I think that's something important to think about when you're playtesting, and if you're losing consistently in that range, I think it's you're on the right path, and through some practice, a little bit more review, you'll find those mistakes and iron them out.
Yeah, and I think one thing to even go beyond that is so even as a small level 2, to bring a direct example. So you're talking about being less than 10 cards. Let's say you're at 8 cards. That's 2 Nami searchers, assuming you were successful in a hit. And so you now know, assuming you've searched twice with Nami, you've know the bottom 8 of your deck. And one thing I like to bring up when people ask is, with something like Gloriosa, let's say you're playing Gloriosa, you're playing the full Kuja Pirates package, you know the first 4, you know the bottom 4. Then you Nami search again, knowing that in the first 4, there's a Gloriosa in there. But then based on how you rearranged, the one Snake Dance or the one Kuja Pirates target you have, you actually put out of range of your Gloriosa. So these are the type of things that people aren't forward thinking to. Based on where you put that Gloriosa in that 4, is it going deep enough to search into that bottom 4? And these are the type of micro decisions you have to think about of if I now rearrange that a different way, could I have won the game? Could I then have been able to rearrange my bottom pile to then use this Kaya that I might have had in the late game? Like, go through your replays, go through these decisions, and think about small decisions like this. How did I rearrange this? Did I now rearrange this in relation to the other cards that I've rearranged? A lot of small decisions.
Yeah. I like to add a little bit more. I'm glad you touched on that. I think another nuance to ordering the bottom of your deck is kind of identifying if it's going to be a fast game or a slow game. Like, do you think the final few turns, does it look like you're going to be able to draw naturally, or do you think you're going to need to, like, you're going to counter your way into those last, eight cards or so? So instead, like, you may, like, let's say your top 4 cards are, Kaya, Pilaf, Love, White Snake. It's like, if it's a fast game, then you want if it, like, fast game being proactive, you're gonna put the Kaya, Pilaf on top. Versus, like, it's going to be a slow game, I need to defend myself a little bit more, then you'll put the draw events on top so that, you'll able to cycle through and keep those up for defense and then get to those proactive cards on the next turn. It's something that, it'll come with practice. It'll come with, like, how many, like, searchers you have in your hand or that you think you're going to resolve. And you need to play to those things. So that's one of the hard things for the deck for sure.
Yeah, and even just to further elaborate on that exact point, think about that from a Dawn perspective, right? Like, you are that exact scenario of Pilaf, Kaya, and the two snake, so White Snake and Mellow. Like, think about a scenario where, you go back to your turn, you drew into the Pilaf Kaya, which you can no longer counter out with. You're stuck in hand. You took an extra life or 2. Now you have to play Pilaf Kaya. That's 4 Dawn, and then you have to spend 4 more Dawn to play 2 counters, right? And then you still have, let's say, 4 cards left in your deck. Is that enough for you to get past those cards if you don't have a gavel? Now, instead, let's say you put the White Snake and the Love Mellow on top, you countered, untap, you drew into Pilaf, you then go into Kaya. Now you have, like, 2 cards left in deck. And so you think about, like, what does that ordering mean? Like in the late game, how much Dawn am I spending to give myself room to keep going? And so these are the type of decisions you have to make. So I'm happy you brought up that exact scenario, understanding where you're at with your Dawn, slow or fast, and reordering. All very minute decisions that genuinely change the state of the game. Like, and your opponent doesn't even know it, which is great. That is something you have complete control over, because as far as I'm aware, unless there's pudding or something, your opponent cannot control the order of your game, like the deck. You do, unless, again, there's a pudding. But yeah. So, is there any thoughts you had going into, kind of, we're talking about the skill of Nami, going into OP11? Have you had a chance to look at the metagame, play it at all, or get any ideas around OP11?
I mean, honestly, the only thing I've ever heard about that meta is just, like, how strong the blue-purple Luffy leader is. And I don't see too many people talking about, like, decks outside of it. So I just kind of, like, look at I don't like look too far ahead most of the time, because I'm really trying to figure out the format at hand. But at least I know kind of the general game plan for the deck. It's very strong, has a good late game plan. It is blue, so it has the the good anti-blue cards most likely. And but it kind of feels like it might be slow enough where Nami's still playable in the meta. I had one friend post or share a post with me recently that he saw, like, someone did top recently with Nami. So I do think it's probably still viable in that meta. But even before that, like, we're looking at EB first, and green purple Luffy is supposed to be, I think, really fast. So
oh god, that's another
I don't know. Yeah, I don't like. I'll have to look into those cards, see how the deck plays, and I do think, like, that deck might really hard counter Nami if they play the stage, since it makes their Sanjing Pudding out of bounce range, it makes their Rusher out of bounce range. So that's those are things I am thinking about and trying to account for. I won't play test it until I like the format. But I am thinking about it now, and that one might be hard. It sounds hard in theory.
So to bring up more context for folks listening, I won't go too much into it either. The blue purple Luffy specifically, it's a 3 life 6k leader. It says that if you have 8 or more done, so before you even add Dawn or draw at the start of your turn, if you have 8 or more done, you can then look at the top card of your top 5 cards. You get a free search for a Straw Hat type, but then the rest of the cards you can top or bottom. So your late game pretty much is just chaining multiple 9-cost Sanjis, because you can search for the Sanji, set up the Sanji, draw, and then just put the card from your top. And your late game is insane. And then you get to untap and draw. So remember, you're searching, then you're drawing, you're setting up. The leader does a lot. But even when it comes to, where is it? I'm trying to find the leader right now. Green, purple. I mean, Dawn -2 once per turn. If the only character on your field is Straw Hats type, those are the only characters, which you're probably going to be doing. You're playing Luffy. Set up to 2 of your Dawn is active. Then this leader gains +1k until the end of your opponent's next turn. It's just, oh my god, the free buff and everything. The leader is very aggressive. It's purple. Generally, purple decks have been like pretty tough matchups for us. The green only furthers that. I feel the green decks are tough, but like green decks are like slow enough where the only thing I'm concerned about is Zoro. But then like add the green on top of the purple.
Yeah, it could be rough. I could also see that deck playing Hody too, which is like, I mean, as an end game, like who cares? I guess, yeah. Does that one? No, that one doesn't have the character restriction, right? It's the other one, the green purple.
Yeah.
Or sorry, blue purple. Yeah. So green purple's probably pretty good with Hody. That deck seems scarier.
Yeah. No. It's gonna be a very aggressive version of the deck. The OP11 meta is definitely like, the blue purple Luffy deck is better than the green purple Luffy deck. But both of those decks are still the top of the metagame. Like it's blue purple Luffy, then green purple Luffy, and everything else is like miles below. Some people are talking about like Revolutionary Army Bello Betty. I don't know if those are just Twitter people just talking a little too much, but there's conversations. But regardless, you haven't looked too much far into the future, but I imagine you have to have some opinion on it. Talk to me about rotation.
Oh yeah, that one. Like that one, kind of have to think about right away, since it's like, even though you're not deck planning for it, but since it's just something that's inevitable.
Yeah.
At first, I wasn't sure how to feel about it. I do think with the way that they design cards, it's ultimately going to be up to the way that they design cards, honestly, if it's good or not, or how if it's going to be good for the game.
Right.
So. I'm gonna wait to judge it then, but I will say I'm a little bit sad that we're gonna lose like kind of like the Yu-Gi-Oh deck building perspective, where now we don't get to find like these old cards, niche cards to like bring into like each and every deck. I think that was something that I loved about Yu-Gi-Oh, where you never know how old a card you'll be able to play is. Like I think that's what makes a game great, and that's what made makes One Piece great, and like makes Nami like a good deck, because I'm playing cards from every set. Like there's some of them are really old. Now, so it's sad to see that like at least that deck building perspective is kind of being taken away. But as long as their card design is good, and PRB seems to be like it's going to be the most important set, I think, of the year now moving forward, because it's going to let us know what cards are going to be able to stay past rotation, and it's going to be their chance to bring back leaders, bring back staples. So I'm honestly, I'm looking forward to see how they handle that. Overall, I think it'll be good.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of cautious optimism, hopefully, in the scene right now with You're right, PRB is going to be the big one. They're not going to reprint everything. Nami is, we're still around for a little bit. They'll probably reprint it into it, but we're not going to get Impel down. We probably won't get Spada either. Like, there'll be random cards that you don't even realize are such staples that they're not going to give us. They're just not, right? So it's going to be interesting to see how they do it. And I think a big sticking point for folks is how much support they actually give to the eternal format, the non-rotating format, where it's not going to be the format for worlds or I guess like regionals or like large things, but there is support for it tournament wise. So there's going to be support for at least LGSs running the stores, because that's a big thing from a numbers perspective. Like local game stores need to report how many players are coming into their events, and if the Eternal format is good for that, then that's going to be important. I just hope it's just not like a forgotten format. Like with Hearthstone, when they eventually went to like a rotating format, they kind of almost largely forgot about their non-rotating format. So I'm optimistic. I want to see if Bandai can prove me wrong. I would like to. It's not about Nami being good or not. It's just about continuing to support the game in the way it needs to be.
Yeah, I think something cool that they will probably do. I think that it's something that Yu-Gi-Oh does is like they have like the Eternal format, retro formats as like major side events.
Yep.
And people love side events and giving them the option to. So that's something. Yeah, we won't know until we see it. But there's definitely there's good things they can keep doing, and yeah, well, it's on them to put it out there.
Yeah, and at least we have a year to speculate and hate and love and everything, but yeah, so that's rotation. Now, I guess we're pretty much like at the ending point of this episode here. Is there any final piece that you wanted to bring up, final discussion point, or did you want to kind of send us off here?
Final discussion point.
Any matchup, any tech, are you about to reveal the worldwide secret Nami tech that you've been hiding on this episode?
No.
Like the blue card that no one's seen? Like, I don't know.
No, I like to play for consistency, and that's like I have a certain, I guess, game plan that I choose to play for with my deck. Right. So like, yeah, this current one is definitely to be annoying, to play for tempo. So I think it's just, please, go back, review my talking points. I think try to this is like a niche thing, I think.
Okay.
When it comes to the middle of the game and like when like taking damage is optimal. I think this is a common thing that people don't think about too much, but let's say your opponent has 4 swings and you don't have a lot of dawn open, you know you're gonna take at least 1 damage that turn. So I think something that is very important to think about is taking that first damage without countering first, just to see like if you get a playable trigger. I think that's something that could influence the game a lot. Because let's say you have 3 dawn open, but maybe like a white snake and a gavel might be like a better counter option, but you have a snake dance and you really want to use it to maybe get back a Kaya, but now you're leaving yourself open to too many other attacks. Like let's say you take that first damage and like that happens to be your snake dance trigger or a brick fist, you know, now you don't have to use the snake dance to counter. You have that extra dawn to use the other events in your hand. So
you know what, that's something,
little things like that.
Yeah, I have to add that to my repertoire. I never really thought about that as like, if you're expecting the hit anyway, just take it first. Just take it first for the trigger. I never really thought about it like that. Okay. I'm adding that one. I'll try that one out. And next time I'll probably post a video on Friday just going over your deck list again. And every time I don't say it out loud, but every time I go into like these videos, I always have like a mental note of what I'm trying to do in that session. And that'll be my try to do. If I'm taking a hit, I will mentally be trying to take it first just to see like what happens, like how it plays out.
Yeah, let me know. I definitely think it's one of the something helpful that could give you like, you know, another edge as the game goes out.
I like it. Okay.
But I think that's my last final comment for now.
That's it. Okay. Well, in that case, thank you for joining us, Adam. We're looking forward to you winning more, coming onto the channel. At some point, you're gonna be so big and famous that I'm gonna have to pay for you to come on here. Like you're gonna be Bandai certified. You're gonna be on the ads like crosses. You know, like you're gonna be on everything, right? We're gonna have you front page in the one leader that I know Bandai doesn't want to support. Every time I see a blue card come out in this game, I know they don't want Nami to succeed. Every time every time it's like, if your leader's multicolored, you win the game. Like that's literally what they be printing these days. That's literally like, yo, 5-cost blocker Nami is literally insane, but leader must be multicolored. I'm like, god damn it.
Yeah.
So I know one day you'll get there. So I'm excited to have you on in the future. Let me know in the comment section down below, folks. For those of you watching, what did we miss in this conversation? What are you looking forward to when it comes to Nami? Do you just disagree with any point? if you do speak it, you're probably wrong, because my man Adam, I believe him first. But we'll see. Maybe someone cooks. We'll see. But thanks everyone for watching. Adam, thank you for joining me. And why don't you just give us a closing statement here, and we'll end it off.
I just want to say, yeah, first of all, thank you for having me on. It's great to be back. I'll talk a little bit about myself. I think I wanted to be back after my first Nami win, but I think a lot of people may not have. I made a public statement later on my Instagram and on my Twitter. But after that win, I actually had started chemotherapy. Prior to the first Pasadena, like early in May, I had found out I had cancer. And so I kind of just started going through treatment. It wasn't all well for a while. I didn't do well at the first match when I thought Nami was actually the best deck in the room. I was still kind of like foggy in the head, so it was a bit unfortunate, but I'm glad to have found, my continued success afterwards. And I just want to, thank all my friends and family, for, being there for me and like helping me get through that time. And, like, honestly, like helping me bounce back. And I can't ever thank them enough for like helping me playtest. My group is awesome. Like, I think not a lot of people ever want to say they want to playtest against Nami, but my friends will actively, reach out to me, and I'll reach out to them, and it goes both ways. And it definitely helps. I don't think they lose to other Nami players because of like things that I've taught them, and I have like the benefit of like learning the meta and like playing correctly. So I can never thank them enough. I want to thank my girlfriend for supporting me, and honestly for also she's a cornerstone of my life and helping me get through all these obstacles. And got to thank my store, Project CCG, my one of our sponsors, Pyramid Gaming, for like cool stuff. I have like a really cool Nami mat and like a Nami deck box, and like it's cool to have other things. And honestly, like all the other Nami players that do reach out to me, and like they'll ask me little questions here and there. Like they help me refine my thinking. Like I've gotten awesome gifts. I'll like he'll probably show it later. Like, or when he showed the bed, like my bed, and it has like the laboon. I have like a brook on top of laboon, and then I have like some other little Nami little plushies that were gifts from people in the community. So like I thank you guys a lot. It means a lot. I appreciate the support, and yeah, I hope to be back soon.
a family man, a man who wins with Nami, and who supports his LGS, and ultimately won the true victory against cancer. I mean, hey, look, that's a winner and a standout guy in my books. Adam, I appreciate you for joining us for this conversation. I hope to have you back. I mean, I want to say soon. I just want to see you win. And I want to see all Nami players win. Look, at the end of the day, I will always admit I'm not the good Nami player. I just want to bring a voice to all the other ones, because at the end of the day, you can be screaming on Twitter or on the internet. Sometimes voices are not heard. But it's important to see that, and it's important to showcase that leaders like Nami can continue to win in crazy times, in times where no one would have predicted. Be able to just, kind of weed through the mud there. But yeah, thanks everyone. Leave a like on the video, subscribe for more, and we'll have Adam on in the future.
Yeah, looking forward to it.